did you know goldenrod makes an excellent tea?
Happy birthday to me. Happy birthday, dear Aaron.
Me.
You are a sad, strange little man, and you have my pity.
Or what's inside. You suck. Finally, we're going to reveal the... Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Tomic's... veteran of the comic book industry for 30 years, I'm a writer, I'm an artist, and this sucks.
Episode Time Lock.
Don't start! We haven't left yet!
Woo! Let's go! You know, as I thought about today's episode, and I grabbed the title Time Lock, I thought, that's not very funny. That's not even weird. That's not even odd, kind of like, oh, that's silly. But I thought about it, and I'm like, the older I get, the more I wish there were a time lock. Can we just freeze it right here? I am thinking that how long will it be before I go back and look at, when did I start streaming? I don't know, 2 years ago? 3 maybe? I don't think it was 3. Maybe it was 3. And I look back and go, wow, look how young I looked in those early videos. And I was already old then. So I don't know. Just some musings going through my mind. Hey, you're watching Aaron Live. I am, of course, Aaron. There is no Shelley Showtime today. Back's bothering her. She can't sit up for long stretches of time right now. Looks like it's time for another cortisone shot into the old lower back to loosen things up. So she sends her regards and apologies for not being able to sit in today. My dog, however, I can leave that studio door open and he will never come in. The minute I close it, he's like, well, why can't I come in there? And then he walks in, taps around, and then he's out again when he realizes that I'm not paying him any attention. It's like, no, I just fed you. We had a little run outside. And there he goes. See? And then Shelley will go, close your door. You're being too loud. And I go, I keep closing the door and the dog keeps pushing his way back in. So I don't know. What can I do? I was actually really warm today. And then suddenly I'm freezing. So I've got this shirt on that I got in Germany. And then this shirt that I got for Christmas. And then this coat I've had since I was a wee lad and I still fit into it. So how about that? All right, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm a little concerned because everybody in the chat is like posting Joe Walsh lyrics. This whole show is not about Joe Walsh. Okay. There is a segment, if you will, on Joe Walsh that I kind of stumbled across and found fairly interesting. And I said, I got to share this. And probably many of you may know this already, but I did not. And so we're going to take a look at that. It'll, it's not like a deep dive into Joe Walsh, but it is kind of an interesting factoid, if you will. Speaking of interesting, let's see who's joining us today in the chat. H is for heretics there. He says, hey, yeah, baby, my Maserati does 185, but we don't need the ladies crying because the story's sad again. Joe Walsh lyrics. Thank you, H, for joining us. Perman Jack is here. Fighting Irish football rules. Fighting Irish foot. Okay. Fighting Irish football, rules. We'll see. We shall see. It's a little too early to start for me to get too hyped about college football. I am, of course, keeping an eye on spring practice, but I'm trying to keep the hype down to a minimum at this point. Leg Kick is here because Leg Kick is almost always here. Sequential Artist. Hello, Aaron and Shelley. Looking forward to hours of artfully done entertainment. That is what we're here for. That is what we provide, is art, this weird synergy of art and entertainment. At least as we try to do. Barbara Paulson's here. She says, looking forward to the broadcast. Hope Shelley can make it. Well, you didn't hope strong enough, Barbara, but she's here in spirit, as she always is. Randy Howell, from all the way from Canada, is joining us. He says, special guest stars Joe Walsh. Life's been good. Well, won't be joining us other than in video, but Dan, the Pizza Man Genovese, is here. Citizen Ronan, of course, he's giving me some more Joe Walsh lyrics. Citizen Ronan says he loves Joe Walsh. Marcus Killer, purveyor of all things pop culture knowledge, is here. Ben Sabar, voice actor. How about that? I think we've recognized you before, Ben. But every time I read your name, I'm like, oh, he's a voice actor, for the 100th time. Nordic Nerd is joining us. Aviator Surge. Pastmaster Dan, Brian Suddenly Old, Helder 6480. Didn't I just say that? I don't know. Duck Bacon is here. Doc Brewski. If you have a little Doc Brewski with some duck bacon. Anyway, let's see here. Mark Pengrin is here. Toshiro has joined us. Paul Taylor, all the way from Canada, our resident biologist, is joining us. Thank you, Paul. Let's see. Who else do we got here? 1, 2, but he's missing 3 is here. He says, Grim 666, Grim Jim 666 says, I love Joe Walsh. In the City, great song. Well, that's interesting enough. That may be what we're taking a look at today. 1, 2 says, 1950s were the golden age, some say. Well, it depends on what we're talking about. The comic book golden age was really in the 40s and kind of stretched a little bit into the 50s. Depending on if maybe you're talking rock and roll. That's when it was born, was in the 50s, right? So Pantheon is here. Just finished cutting the yard, took my shower, but I'm right here on time. I start to show. Hi, chat. Hi, Aaron. Hey, Pantheon, I mowed my grass as well. Kellraiser is here. Entity is, of course, joining us. Who else we got here? Tim Elf is here. He's the elf on the shelf. Eric and Boyd, no one writes Aaron Lopresti letters and tells him he's great. It is true. Well, I've had a couple nice letters, though. They didn't exactly say they tell me I'm great. Of course, he's referring once again to Life's Been Good by Joe Walsh. Some of the lyrics there. Geek Avenger for $2. Life's been good to me so far, which is what we were just doing. Thank you for the 2. Appreciate it. Grey Wolf is here. And let's skim along here. Do merrily along, actually. L.E. Frog Capo is here, or Capo is here. L.E. Frog. L.E. always changing the last part of his name, keeping me confused, which is not hard to do. Okay, we are rocking and rolling. We got this show on the road. We're 150 strong right now. We assume we will grow as we go. But please take a moment out of your busy day as you're sitting there in front of your computer and it's terrible. There it is. And watch this public service announcement. There we go. Please like and subscribe. It helps me feel better about myself, because if you can't write me a letter and tell me I'm great, then at least hit the like and subscribe, because then I can say life's been good. Okay, enough of that nonsense. One of the things we like to do here, most of you know this, but some of you may not. You may just be strolling and go, what do they really like to do here? One of the things we like to do here is eat. And so why would I prevent any of us from doing what we like to do?
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
Somebody tell my dog to quit barking. Okay, so check this out. Won't be a big surprise to anybody as I get up to close the door. Oh, my Lord. Not exactly a professional recording studio. Okay, so what have I got? Well, nothing. Well, it's really good, but it's our old friend. This is a sopressata and mozzarella. All these really thin Italian meats are very similar. This is Fratelli Beretta. It says right here, since 1812. I'm hoping this was not wrapped and cured in 1812, but so we're going to go ahead and dig into one of these, which has become my new favorite go-to treat. Got to get off the sugar and stay off the sugar. And this has no nitrates. It says no nitrates or nitrates added. Well, do nitrates occur naturally? I don't know. I didn't think they did, but anyway, it has no nitrates in it and none were added. Once they found out there wasn't any in here, they didn't add any. So they're trying to make me feel healthy about myself, which I want to do. I want to feel healthy. Okay, so it's time. Well, we dig in to whatever nourishing food item you've brought along for the show to take a look at Frazetta, yet another Frazetta Conan book cover painting. So buckle up. My dog hasn't barked all day, and he hasn't stopped barking since we went live. I don't know. Someone's down there poking him. So that was the fourth Conan paperback cover that we've taken a look at that Frazetta painted. And it's actually one of my is more favorite. Is that English even? Is that even remotely correct? So it's not my favorite, but it's up in the top there. I really like that. Even though we don't even get to see Conan, we're seeing him from behind, but you get those back muscles, him pulling against the chains, and that big old snake, and a couple of goblins and monsters over there by the window. It's a powerful piece. And of course, that's what made Frazetta great, was the power and the dynamics and the action of his dog going nuts on the porch while he's trying to talk. Why do people deliver stuff on Sunday? Isn't Sunday supposed to be a day of rest? Okay. Anyway, that's our Frazetta for the day. And I'm just going to turn the show off till the dog starts barking. So I'll see you guys never again. Anyway, moving right along here. I swear I'm going to kill him. I'm going to kill him. I'm going to take him. And I'm going to, of course, you PETA fans out there, I'm joking. I love my dog. I love him to death. Okay. So anyway, that's our Frazetta. And that's Shelley yelling at the dog, in case you can't hear that. It's chaos, folks. It's absolute chaos. Paul Taylor says he's simply providing ambience. And yeah, you're probably right. Vagrant frequency is annoying him. Yeah. Travis Perrick has joined us. Here we go. Iodine 74, he says, I'm tardy. The dog ate my slip. Sorry, folks. Well, the dog's down there eating something else, too. It's K. Aaron. His barking doesn't bother me. Us? Okay. All right. Marcus Killigrew says, that's why I have cats. Dan, the Pizza Man Genovese, is simply saying, it's all about pizza, man. It's all about pizza. Daniel Russell, the same way. She yells at that old goat. Hello, Presty. Well, there's nothing like starting to show off with a bang, is there? There you go, Daniel. Okay, cats are weird. I don't like cats. I've never liked cats. When I was in my commercial art studio called Art Farm back in the day, like way back in the day when I had hair, we had a cat, kind of a tomcat that hung around the studio. And he was actually the only cat I ever liked. He kind of hung out. He never really bothered you, but he was like, he was always around kind of hanging out, just like, like a good old friend that's there to kind of keep you company, but not bug you. And so he was really good at that. And so I appreciated that and didn't really need much, didn't ask for much, but didn't give a lot either, but I had low expectations. So anyway, Paul Taylor says, I agree. I'm a dog person. Cats are all right, but I find they only come around when they want something. Dogs are always happy to see you. That's true. And they're always happy to bark and annoy you as well. I need something like fatter and lazier, like a bulldog or something. And I know bulldogs aren't completely lazy, but they're more lazy than that crazy thing that we have. Schnauzers are entertaining, but they are high energy and loud. So you take the good with the bad, I guess. All right. We have got so much stuff to cover today. I don't even know where to begin. Let's begin with, all right, you talked me into it, Joe Walsh. So I'm YouTubing late at night as I'm working. I'll go and listen to different, I have like a rock list that I put together, and I put it on and listen to it, which is kind of dumb because you get the commercials with YouTube. If I just put in like an old CD that I had, or even, went to iTunes or whatever and played my rock list, then I wouldn't have to do that. But every once in a while, I kind of want to watch the performance. So I'll stick my head around the corner and, see, oh, that's Pink Floyd at Pompeii. I'm going to stop and, watch some of this or whatever. So I came across this video, which I will show you now. And then we'll have a little conversation about it because I found it fascinating, as Spock would say. Here we go. It starts dark. Okay, here we go. That's all I got. But this is the interesting thing. You guys probably looking at this video and you say, wait a minute, I recognize those dudes. Why, that's Don Henley on drums. There's Don Felder on guitar. There's that Schmidt guy, the long hair and the high voice. Wait a minute, I know that guy too. That's that guy. Why can't I remember? Glenn Fry. So you're sitting there, I'm watching this video and I'm saying, the Eagles, what? In the City? That is, of course, from the soundtrack of the cult classic movie that called The Warriors, which we, when it came out, thought it was a big hit, and it really wasn't. This movie was not a hit. It's become a cult classic over the years, Walter Hill film. One of the things about this album cover that bugs me, this guy right here, that's one of the Warriors, but they shaved his head and made him a bald guy, which I don't really understand, because he wasn't bald in the movie. He had the kind of dark curly hair-ish. I think he had the leather vest on, but yeah, it was weird that they gave him. And then this dude right here, this is not the leader. Remember the beginning of the movie, the leader had the, like, that, I don't know, what do you call that headdress thing that he was wearing when they went to Hear that dude go, "Can you dig it?" And he gets killed right away. And so then they're trying to get back home without their leader. And of course, Michael Beck becomes their new leader. But this guy, he had all the Indian jewelry and stuff on, but he had a big old fro. So the artist for this album cover, like, took this dude's hair off. This guy right here took his hair off. And then this guy right here, he made into their leader, and he wasn't their leader. He was just one of the gang members. Very odd. Probably did the painting before the movie came out. Was a little bit confused about who is who. But anyway, that's really not what we're here to discuss. Is the rather questionable. What the heck is my dog's barking? Shelley's
I was sneaking
in here, and she knocked over a ladder. That's a couple years bad luck or something. You didn't walk underneath it, did you?
Oh, it's a step ladder. I'm small, but not that.
What is this?
Open it and see.
We're right in the middle of the Joe Walsh segment.
Well, we'll
Okay.
get over it.
All right. Hang on.
Sorry, guys.
We have to listen to the dog bark. We're going to find out what he was barking
That's why I
about.
came in.
Oh,
Is it?
does this? Oh, it lights up. It's a big Nebraska, and we were just talking mildly about college football.
USB, so you can plug it in on your desk.
Oh, I got to find an open port.
I come over, but I'm still in my jammies.
She's wandering around her jammies, tripping
That's
over ladders,
My butt
stepping
hurts.
on dogs.
Gravity is my nemesis.
Let's see here. Okay, I can probably plug that in right there. Okay, so then it does this, and there it is. No,
Is it? No.
there
Oh,
it is.
be.
Woo!
Dun,
Dun, dun, dun, dun.
dun.
Most people are like, "What?" My dad's.
Aren't I thoughtful?
That's very cool. I don't.
I
I'm
am
gonna
the
put it up there.
best.
Not sure where to put that.
So it happens when you're up half the night, so you shop.
The strangest things show up from Amazon. Well, thank you very much, Shelley. That was very
Happy
kind of
Father's
you.
Day early, but
Is
you're
it
not my
Father's Day? It's like,
father.
when is Father's Day?
June.
Oh, I guess it is early then, isn't it?
All right, have a good show.
All right. Thank you very much.
Mhm.
Now we know why the dog was barking.
Yep.
So we got a big Nebraska N for when football season starts. Okay. Daniel Russell, of course, the N stands for never going to win. I would blow you up for that, but I can't really argue it until they change. Okay. Here we go. So I see this video and I'm like, well, wait a minute. Joe Walsh, of course, did this song and he got credit for performing the song and co-writing the song in the city. And I'm like, but here he's recording it with the Eagles. I'm like, when did this happen? I got, I was tripping hard, man. So I did a little searching here. And is this not going to let me scroll? Are you freaking kidding me? All right, hang on a second here. There we go. Now it's working. Now that I've totally critiqued the album cover. I used to have that album too. Someone stole it from me in college. That's why I left I was in a frat for like one semester, not even a semester. We had quarters back then. So like one quarter I was in this term, I guess you'd call it. And I left because there's like people stealing jeans and stealing records. And I'm just like, where's all this brotherhood crap? We're supposed to, I got fed up and left. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. Okay. So take a look at this article, which I found to be very interesting. It's in some sort of bizarre Tennessee newspaper. Why are we getting... Okay, here we go. The hottest hot chicken, how it's made and what happened. Oh, Lord, what happened to my NASCAR Cup results? There was a time when I actually was organized. This apparently ain't it. The heck? All right. Well, you're just going to have to trust me on this one. The heck? No, we don't want to listen to that. You know what happened? They changed the headline on me. That's what happened. I had this open since last night and they changed the headline. They lousy son of a... Okay. So anyway, what happened was the guy that was hired to do the soundtrack, or the rock soundtrack for the album. He was neighbors with Joe Walsh. And so he just kind of out of the blue one day goes, "Hey, Joe, would you be interested in co-writing a song with me, or writing a song with me for the end credits of this movie?" And Joe's like, "Yeah, sure." So they go over there and they work out this song. And then Joe performs it with, I don't know, friends, studio musicians, whatever. He performs the song for the soundtrack. Now, the guy that was, I want to say it was Barry DeVore or Barry DeVorzen or Joe, I can't remember. Anyway, he was kind of surprised that Joe never released it as a single. And then, of course, the movie didn't really do that well. And so it just, kind of faded off into nothingness. But then Joe decides to record this and put it on their next Eagles album. And so he records it with the Eagles. That's why we got the video. That's the official video right there. And he calls his neighbor and says, "Hey, I'm going to record this on the Eagles thing." And the guy says, "Well, I'll believe it when I see it." Because he knows you go into a studio with 20 tracks and then it gets cut down to 10 or 11. So he wasn't even sure it was going to make it on the album. But it did. And so this guy's like freaking out that he's got one of his songs, or one that he co-wrote at least with Joe, but he co-wrote it. So he was participated in the whole process. And probably generated it. So there he is, kind of listed, on an Eagles album. But I didn't know this. I never knew that that Joe Walsh recorded this later with the Eagles to put on their album. And I was stunned. I'm not a rock and roll expert, but come on, man, I am a 70s rocker. And I know my rock and roll pretty well from that era, at least with the bigger name bands. I don't, the club scene, that type of stuff. I was never into that. But the stuff that got radio play, I'm aware of, and I'm aware of a lot of the history that goes behind a lot of those songs. And I did not know this. And what I also found out while I was, hopefully this will work. Jeez. One of the things I also didn't know was that, do you see this right here? Right here? Randy Meisner was one of the original founders of the Eagles. I had no idea. He left the band when Timothy B. Schmidt, there he is, Schmidt, joined the band. And it wasn't because of Schmidt, but I guess it was constant. There was always so much arguing and give and take back and forth that it just drove him nuts. So he finally left. But I had no idea that Randy Meisner was one of the original founding members. Glenn Fry, Don Henley, Randy Meisner, Don Felder. And then apparently Bernie Ledden, I don't even know who that dude is. You don't see him here, but I believe that's him right there. I'm not really sure. And there he is over here. So I don't know, but there's Meisner over there in the corner. And you're like, I had no idea that he was in that band. And a lot of people came and went from the Eagles. They were, a big band. And Joe Walsh, of course, wasn't one of the founders, but he was in and out all the time. And so anyway, there it is. So let me let's search here real quick, because this is driving me nuts that my other screen didn't work. Let's take a look at Joe Walsh in the City. Okay. Barry Dvorak. Barry Dvorak was his neighbor. That was the guy that was doing the rock soundtrack for the Warriors. And he's the guy that, can ask Joe to help him out, and Joe did, and they hit up that song. So it was released on the soundtrack. Of course, it was on the soundtrack album, but it was never released as a single until the Eagles put it on their album. What album was that? What album was it? There it is. Was it The Very Best Of? No, that's a 2013. The Long Run. That was the album it was on, which was a huge hit, obviously, for the Eagles. And that's when that song got a lot of airplay. And so that was what, 79? And In the City, that was about the same time the Warriors came out. So it would have been not long after the movie came out, maybe a year after. So there you go. So I just thought that was really interesting, because I had no idea that the Eagles had anything to do with it, but there you go. I'm not really. My best friend was a Toll guy, and he was constantly pushing Jethro Tull on me. And, the Ian Anderson flute and all those kind of things were just kind of, I didn't really get it. I think the lead guitar solo in Aqualung is awesome, however. And I have more appreciation for him now than I did, but I wasn't a big Rush guy either. Although their album covers were cool, like Fly By Night with that big owl, that was pretty cool. I had very eclectic tastes. I was all over the place. I didn't have a particular band that was, I went in and out of, I was really big into Alvin Lee for a while, and then tried to get into Hendrix, and I only did a little bit. But it was Aerosmith and Journey, and I did like REO Speedwagon. I think that's probably one of those embarrassing things, say like REO Speedwagon and Kiss, but I did like him, and still do, actually. Pink Floyd, huge Pink Floyd fan, as you guys know from my top 5 albums from a few weeks ago. But Kansas, of course, sure. Boston, I love Boston. The Cars, we've been through all this, but I don't know that I had a favorite band back in the day. And I wonder, though, a lot of people always say, oh, I love this band or I love that band. Isn't it more truthful to say, I love a lot of, or some of the songs from that band, but I don't, to love a band, it's kind of like, it's like the Grateful Dead. I go to all the Grateful Dead concerts, I buy their albums, whatever, because I just like the band and their, and their sound. I'm more of I like particular songs from particular groups, and the songs that I don't like, I don't listen to, just because maybe I like the band when they're playing these other songs. So that's kind of how I've always been. I've never had like, oh, I've got to get all the albums of this group or all the albums of that group. It's always whose song do I happen to like at the moment? And then maybe I would go and buy that album. We used to buy a lot of 45s because that way we didn't have to get the other stuff, and they were cheaper too. But anyway, so there's a little rock history there from Joe Walsh and the Eagles with the Warriors soundtrack that I had no idea about. So how about that? All right, so let's segue into, I am aware of the Flying Burrito Brothers, and actually someone told me they were actually pretty good. And I remember listening to, didn't they have like one album where they're all like, all 3 of them were jumping forward in the air? And yeah, but I think someone made me listen to that once, and I was like pleasantly surprised, going, this is actually pretty good. You wouldn't think the Flying Burrito Brothers, a name like that, would be something that, kids would be lining up to listen to. But Travis Perrick for $2. Thank you, Travis. He says, what about Blue Oyster Cult? Again, Some of their songs, Godzilla was kind of fun. Don't Fear the Reaper, which is really became sort of a suicide anthem, which is really kind of dark. But we all sort of dug that. That got a lot of radio play. And there's another song too that they had that I can't think of off the top of my head that was pretty good. I didn't go to a lot of concerts when I was young because my parents wouldn't let me. So these bands would come through town and like my neighbor friends would go. Then they'd tell me about it. Oh, we went and saw Blue Oyster Cult and whatever. And I never got to go to any of them. So Geek Avenger for $2 says Dread Zeppelin. I kid you not. It somehow works. Dread Zeppelin. Is that like a reggae Zeppelin band? I don't. Cheap Trick. I did like some of Cheap Trick stuff. Again, I don't know that I ever, that's not true. I did buy Cheap Trick live at Budokan. I did buy that album because I thought it was a double album, but it wasn't. It was a single, but it was folded out like this. And then one of the sleeves just had nothing in it. And the other one had the album in it. And I was like, because I remember looking at it going, I can get a double album for $7.99. I think that's what it was. Maybe $5.99, somewhere in that neighborhood, whatever it was back then. And of course it had I Want You to Want Me on it. And so, I got that album and then we opened it up and it was like, there was only one album in it. We're like, what? So I think the first album I bought on my own was Kiss Alive because somebody in junior high was just like, you're awesome. This is the most awesome band. You got to get Kiss Alive. And one of my friends had Dress to Kill and we would listen to that and that had a couple good songs on it. And I liked the black and white photography on the cover of that album. And so I was aware of Kiss and then we got Kiss Alive. And that's a rockin' album. And of course, that's the album that turned Kiss into rock superstars because their album sales on their own were never that great, but they were a great live band. So they would do well when they toured, but their albums never really sold that well until Kiss Alive, which made perfect sense. Someone had the brains to go, okay, you guys' albums are not selling well, but everybody comes to see you live. Let's do a live album and see if that works. And that, of course, did. And they exploded. And then they followed that up with Dress to Kill. Pardon me, not Dress to Kill. Destroyer, which then was, had Beth and Detroit Rock City and several other songs on it that were big hits. And so then Kiss became really big in album sales as well as a touring band. And the rest is, as they say, history. I feel like Casey Kasem. Craig Smith II says, Aaron, when I was younger, I had folks giving me a strange look when I told them I liked listening to Guns N' Roses and Bon Jovi. Oh my goodness, I'll bet. Andy Dallas says, I was a weirdo. One of my favorite first albums was the soundtrack to Amadeus the movie. Well, I mean, if you like classical music, right, you can't complain about Mozart, right? Marcus Killicker said in high school, all we did was go to concert. Geek Avengers, why is Aaron on this topic again? I can't stay away from rock and roll, baby. That's all we had to do, man. There was no video games. There was comic books, and then there was rock. And so that's what garnered most of my attention growing up was rock and roll and comics. Now let's bridge the gap a little bit. Okay. Let's bridge the gap from rock and roll to the art form, the two-dimensional art form. Of course, rock music or music in general is an art form. But where's my intros, man? I am disorganized. Ever since that dog started barking, it threw me off. All right, here we go. Yeah, we're going to take a look at Roger Dean. Those of you who don't know who Roger Dean is probably most famous for his album covers that he did for the rock group Yes, or what we like to call the progressive rock group Yes. Hopefully not involved in progressive politics, but at least they were progressive rock and rollsters. Roger Dean, I found out some interesting things about Roger Dean. Now, anybody that would frequent a album shop in the 70s, or maybe even into the early 80s before, Tower Records kind of came and is mall-ized a word, but the commercial mall-ized the record store. They used to be like old comic shops, record shops, right? They always smelled like weed or incense. It was always a back room that either had a curtain separating it from where you bought albums, or they were like beads, And so we go to the record stores. And one of the great things about going to the record store was everybody's a fan of music, right? But also back then, you had these giant albums, or giant, but 33s. And the albums had art on them, either a photograph or illustration. In the 70s, illustration was really, really big. So I was never a big fan of Yes, like Roundabout and maybe a couple other tunes, but wasn't really my thing. I was more into sort of the hard driving classical rock and roll, not this aggressive rock. But their album covers were by this dude, and he made me want to buy their albums. Now, the interesting thing about his stuff is it screams 70s for sure, and screams like 70s van art. But for someone doing like funky, surreal landscapes is mostly what he did. It was something sort of really interesting and captivating about his work, the vibrant colors. Now, it all looked airbrushy to me at the time, but having gone back and taking a look at it and doing a little reading on Roger Dean, I'm not saying he didn't use airbrush, but what I am saying is a lot of his work was acrylics, and he may have airbrushed some acrylics as well. But he also did watercolor and ink. And on some of those, it's much clearer that he used airbrush. Whereas on some of the acrylic stuff, you go in and look at it, and it doesn't appear that he did use airbrush on some of the softer stuff. I'm sorry, Craig. Paul, I wonder if Aaron was a big disco fan. Aaron was a big fan of chicks. And if the chicks were at the disco, Aaron was at the disco. There you go. I hope that answers that question. I was very much a fan of whatever, I never fully poured myself in any particular trends. But I did, I've never been a music snob. If I liked a song, I liked a song. I didn't care if it was country, if it was, rock, if it was disco, if it was pop, if it was a sappy love song, if it was good, I listened to Barry Manilow. I listened to everything. And at one time or another. And, but I didn't really listen to a lot of Yes. It was just too weird. Now, let's take a look at a couple more things here. Now, this is Uriah Heep. So Roger Dean wasn't just doing Yes album covers. He was doing other album covers. Uriah Heep was a rock, a kind of a pre-metal metal band, maybe you'd like to describe him as. I don't know. But again, just interesting. And the colors were so vibrant on a lot of his album covers. It reminded me of that guy who I can't remember right now. And I knew I was going to do this. Oh my gosh. I'll come to me in a second. The interesting thing about Roger Dean is he's a British dude. He went to like the Royal Academy of Arts or something there, graduated. And then like one of his first gigs was working at a jazz bar, or it was kind of my take on it. And he had to design some like furniture or something for this place, which then led to him getting hooked up with Yes, which was this new young up and coming band. And so he started doing their album covers, and then that sort of just led one thing to another, and suddenly had a full-fledged career in commercial illustration, mostly in rock and roll, baby. Pardon me. Okay, so take a look at this, if we can get in there close enough. You can see the canvas right there. This is acrylic on canvas. Does not appear to be airbrushed. Maybe in through here a little bit, I guess, over the top of this. That's probably, it's got to be. I mean, I airbrushed enamel paints once, so if I'm going to do enamels, he could do acrylics. And cleanup would be easier on that than the enamel paint, I can tell you that. But this is acrylics. Yeah, it's definitely airbrush in there. But there's also, you can see up here that there's brush strokes in here from actually using a conventional brush and then airbrushing over the top. And he would design the lettering and all that kind of stuff as well. Very trippy, man. Paul Taylor says Uriah Heep was something my oldest brother listened to. Not familiar with him at all. I never really listened to him either. I listened to Uriah Heroes, Demons, and Wizards album a ton when I was a kid. Yeah, I know. I always see that, and they're like, "Oh, look at this guy! It's the first time he's ever heard Freebird." You know, and they're like, yeah, "Whatever." Okay, so here's a band I almost went and saw. I don't know why we didn't end up going to see this, but Asia, which is again a progressive rock band, I guess, but I actually liked Asia, and they were a combo of Steve Howe and that other dude from the keyboardist from Yes, and then the lead singer from oh god, John, what was his name? He was the lead singer from another King's something, and then they had was it the drummer from Emerson, Lake and Palmer? So they had two guys from Yes, the lead singer from was another band, and then they had the drummer from Emerson, Lake and Palmer. And King Crimson, there it is. Citizen Rona knows. That's right. There you go. John Wetton, thank you very much. Citizen Ronan knows his stuff. So it was John Wett, former lead singer from King Crimson. And there it is. Carl Palmer was on drums. And then, now what does that mean? Of course, Aaron liked Asia. What the heck does that even mean? I don't even know who the Rippingtons are. So there. Who did the song The Final Countdown? The Final. I know that, and now I can't think of their name. Tim Elf says King Crimson rocked. They sound like they should rock, doesn't it? With a name like that. He says Beastman, Toto greater than Asia, greater than Air Supply. Oh man. But anyway, so obviously Roger Dean then made the transition from being the Yes album cover artist to the Asia album cover artist. I do like this one a lot. Here's another. This I think was the Asia, or pardon me, Asia only had like, did they just do 2 or 3 albums before John Wetton left? And then those guys just bounced back and forth between Yes and Asia, the new Asia and the old and the new Yes. And anyway, so here's I believe this is the second Asia album cover. And that eagle or whatever that is. I think that's pretty cool. Got all these rock facts being dumped on me here in the Mike and the Mechanics. That was in the 80s. I did like their what was it, the Dying Years, or the you had a couple songs that I liked off that Mike and the Mechanics album. I'll check this one out. These vibrant colors are just He must have been using acrylics like in their purest form. Look at that. Maxfield Parrish, that's who I was thinking of. If you look at like Maxfield Parrish's had some really like almost illuminescent paintings back around the turn of the century. And I mean the 1900s, not the 2000s. And it's kind of reminiscent of Maxfield Parrish to me anyway. I kind of get that vibe. Yeah, I said the dying years. It was the living years, but yeah, there we go. Several of you guys got that. Sequential artists did as well. Okay, now here's something interesting that I didn't know, but I thought about. That I thought surely Roger Dean worked on Avatar, right? Because it had that similar feeling. Like, so you've got this Roger Dean painting here, album cover, and then you got the floating rocks from Avatar. You got this strange thing going on here, and you got this kind of strange type similar thing going on here. Right? You're like, God, those seem awfully similar. Now, I don't know if this is exactly fair to make the comparison here, but they did anyway. So we'll take a look at it. So you got the Roger Dean on the left and then the Avatar creature on the right. Yeah, I don't know if you can connect the dots on those two things, but certainly the landscapes in Avatar felt very, very Roger Deanish, right? So, but Roger Dean did not work on this movie. He did, however, sue, was it 20th Century Fox and James Cameron for ripping him off. But in a very, and I read some of the brief, and the judge ruled in favor of James Cameron on this. In his comments on the case were very, I don't know, hypocritical is not, but they were contrary to his own statements previous in the brief, right? So he'd say something like, you know, it doesn't matter if people at large make some sort of connection. That shouldn't come into account whether something's ripped off or not. But then later in the same brief, he would say that most people's opinions feel that, you know, and you're like, well, you just said their opinions don't matter, and now you're saying they do matter. And it was very weird. I clearly, and James Cameron admitted to being aware of Roger Dean's work. So it's not like, I don't know, man. I think the cool thing for Cameron to have done was, you know, give him some credit, say, you know, some of the artwork or some of the scenes inspired by Roger Dean, throw him a couple $1,000,000, everything goes away, everybody's happy, right? But instead he sued him, Cameron, and Cameron won. So Roger Dean gets nothing out of it. And I just can't look at Avatar and not think that somehow that was influenced by Roger Dean, and at least the atmosphere and the colors and just the, you know, the floating rocks and all these different things seem very similar. And many of you guys probably know that in a similar situation that the Dinotopia creator sued George Lucas for the first, what do you call them? The first trilogy. They're really the second trilogy, but the first three by numbers Star Wars films, like Princess Amidala, Princess Amidala's home planet was ripped off from Dinotopia, and it was clearly. Anybody that watches that movie, the first thing they go is, "Oh my gosh, that looks like Dinotopia," and so he sued George Lucas and won. But then Roger Dean sues for Avatar and doesn't win, when it basically seems like it's the same situation going on there. So I don't know. There you go. that's our rock and roll discussion for this evening, and I'm glad you were here to enjoy it. In case you want to know what Roger Dean looks like, let's bring up a picture of him. And he does have a website. So if you want to check out more Roger Dean work, you can go to rogerdean.com. How convenient is that? It's like going to aaronlopresti.com. It's so easy. A child could do it. As Bones told Kirk about putting Spock's brain back in. It's child's play. It's so simple a child could do it. Yeah, and then he began to forget. We all know what happened next. And if you don't know, you probably don't want to know. It's one of the worst Star Trek episodes ever. Yeah, he has great hair. He does. Oh my goodness. Sequential Artist says Avatar was the meta perfect name for Cameron's product. Everything about it stands in for something else. It really does. You know, dances with wolves and you know, American Indians and the American pioneers moving out the Native Americans, and you know, that was obviously a huge thematic element of Avatar. But I don't know, you make like $1 billion on a movie or something, and you clearly used some other artists' work for inspiration. Throw them a couple million, you know, give them a little credit. I don't know. Is it that hard? I don't know. There's Shane giving me the specifics. He sued for Theed looking like the Dinotopia City. Right, exactly. I didn't remember all the names. I think I've only seen the prequels like once or twice in my entire life. I didn't think they were as bad as we think they are now when they first came out, but you know, weren't fantastic. And then, of course, when the J.J. Abrams movies came out, they suddenly got a lot better. Paul Taylor says, I noticed that movies that bomb aren't sued by artists, but it's not about the money at all. Of course it isn't. Of course it is. Of course it's about the money. We all want a little piece of the pie, right? Well, Richard Gradwell is going to defend Lucas or whoever did the... But meanwhile, he used actual locations in Italy for Theed. Well, he must not have used enough of them. Okay. You know, this reminds me right here. I almost forgot about this. The one album cover looked like the surface of Uranus. Okay. Apparently, one of our favorite towns in the United States, Uranus, Missouri, was hit by a tornado recently, and it stopped production Uranus from producing fudge, which that's, you know, you get backed up like that, and then you got orders to fill. That's pretty. But luckily, Uranus is back and producing fudge on a regular schedule now. So even though it was shut down for a while, things were backed up. They were able to release brand new packages of fudge out to the thousands of, I'm sure, patrons out there that are dying to get their hands on some Uranus fudge. So there you go. A lot of people sent me notifications letting me know that Uranus had indeed been hit by a pretty hefty tornado. So anyway, did they remove the blockage? As far as I know. Oh yeah, no, I'm a shock jock. Bob Gable is, yeah, that's me. Okay, that's gross. I'm not going to read that. Yeah, let's see. Jar Jar Binks. Yeah, it wasn't great. He was annoying. Oh my gosh, that guy was annoying. We were just begging for him to get killed. And he had like bell-bottom jeans on too. And it's like, come on, man. What is this, the 70s? Anyway. Yeah, this joke was so old. The last time I heard it, I fell off my dinosaur. Paul Taylor says, what do toilet paper and the Starship Enterprise have in common? They both circle Uranus in search of Klingons. Wow, where's my little, there we go. Yeah, that's not very good, Paul. You're gonna have to try harder than that. Daniel Russ, the only shock in Aaron's show is when we need the defibrillator. Holy smokes. If that wasn't so funny, I'd blow you up. But actually, it's pretty funny. What the heck? I'll give you that's twice for Daniel Russell's taking some abuse today. All the kids love Jar Jar. I think my son even had a Jar Jar Binks action figure, which I made him throw out when he got older. Or he wanted to throw it out when he got older. I can't remember. All right. So I also promised you guys we'd talk about sugar. And the one thing I'm trying to stay off of, but, you know, there's just certain things that are a staple in your life. And this is going to be one of them. This is today's top 5. Do you guys call them cold cereal? When we were kids, we called it cold cereal. There was hot cereal, which was like oatmeal, or what was that other stuff they used to? It was kind of like malto meal. Chocolate malto meal actually wasn't too bad. Regular malto meal, no thanks. But anyway, so we had hot cereal, and basically, that's what we called it because that's how it was served, either cold or hot. So I don't know if people actually call that or not. Sometimes we call them dry cereal, or they just call them cereal. But see, cereal isn't very defining because it could be hot cereal. Oatmeal can be considered cereal. Anyway, blah, blah, blah. All right. I do have a honorable mention here. I had a real tough time with my 5th place spot, but I never watched these as a kid, but I've come to enjoy these as an adult. We have the freeze-dried strawberry flakes in there, which they call real strawberries, which I suppose they are. And it's kind of got like, it's sweet, but not, it's not grotesquely sweet, but it's got kind of a granola feel to it. It has some flakes in there that are very crispy. So it kind of meets all the cereal criteria. I kind of like these. If these are on sale, I'll get a box. Aaron is so old, he remembers when oatmeal came out. Porridge, sequential artist says, yeah. Andy Dolph says cereal is poison. You're right, it is, but that doesn't mean we don't love it. Here's the thing. Here's the thing about granola bars. Like, those Cliff bars, have you seen those? Like supposedly energy bars, they have so much sugar in them. They might as well be a candy bar. I love raisins. I know that that's like pineapple on pizza. I know. Raisins are like people really hate raisins. And I don't understand what the animosity towards the raisin is. I love raisins. They're chewy, they're sweet, they're delicious. To quote Kramer. Okay, so here we go. Let's get into this list. That was just an honorable mention on the outside. Here we go. Those of you who are like food snobs or only eat healthy, you're going to be really offended by this, and that's okay. We're all about offending people here on this show. Here we go. Number 5. I have to admit, I do buy these still on occasion. I love these things. They're big, they're crunchy, they're kind of airy, they're sweet. I mean, come on, man. I love honeycombs. Now, did they used to have, like when we were kids, did they used to have like a cartoon character? I mean, I want to say there was a bee, but It's like, it doesn't really sound familiar. Do they have, like, I keep thinking, well, it wasn't Sugar Bear because Sugar Bear was, Sugar Crisps. So did Honeycombs have like a mascot that ever got popular? Dale A says styrofoamish. They are, but at the same time, crunchy and sweet. Now, Geek Avengers saying, I was hoping you would show Count Chocula. Here's the thing. I'm going to tell you right now. Well, I'm not going to tell you. I'll tell you when after I'm done with the list, and then we'll see where it falls. Captain Crunch is king, says Yaya Terra. I could pound chocolate Raisinets. I love Raisinets. When I go to a movie theater, that's what I always get. And I saw this top 10 list that these guys were doing on Instagram a while back. And according to their top 10 list, Raisinets are the most unhealthy candy you can get. And I just cannot believe that. And yet, maybe because of the sugar content, they always say they don't want you eating dried fruit if you're on a diet, because when they dry the fruit, it concentrates the sugar. Now, I don't understand this, because it's like, if the same amount of sugar is in it when it's like a grape, why is it worse now when you dry it? But apparently it changes the sugar in some way, and it condenses it, and so it's more powerful or whatever. So maybe it's the combination of the chocolate covering the raisins. It's just so much sugar that it's just not healthy for you. But that doesn't keep me from eating a box. Okay. So anyway, this is my number 5. I can't really explain it, but I do like these. Now, you want to talk about sugar. I don't think there's a cereal that has more sugar in it than these, but yeah, it's number 4 on my list. And you can't tell me they're not great, because they're great. These are disgusting. They are absolutely covered in sugar. Sugar has got to be the number one ingredient in most of these cereals, but this really takes it to the next level. Now, here's the thing with these. I love cornflakes, just regular old cornflakes. So I'll put a little fruit in with them, fresh fruit, and I love cornflakes. I don't know why, but I do. This is like sugar cornflake heaven. But I see someone there saying it's just too sweet. It is. You couldn't just like pound these, I wouldn't think. But for a nice diversion every once in a while, like a sugary, over the top sugary treat, Frosted Flakes. And they're really super crispy, probably because they're chemically coated on both sides for freshness. Someone's saying B Spin said sugar smacks are the best. I don't know about that. Shane Peterson says even cornflakes aren't that healthy. Andy Montemayor says Captain Crunch, you can't beat the captain. Dale A says strawberry and cornflakes taste like citric acid. Let's see. Cornflakes were invented by a Seventh-day Adventist who thought they'd prevent people committing acts of self-abuse by eating cornflakes. Well, I'm not even going to go there. I was going to say, I've never committed acts of self-abuse. So anyway, Apple Jacks. Yeah, I used to like Apple Jacks, but they didn't crack the top 5. Let's go number 3. These might be number 1 for a lot of people. For me, they're just number 3. But I do have moments where you can crave these suckers. So everything in here is crunchy, and it pretty much stays crunchy, even the marshmallows, which is not a good sign. But it's so funny because the marshmallows are so sweet that the regular cereal is almost like a step back in sweetness, even though they're probably super sweet on their own as well. But I love Lucky Charms. They truly are magically delicious. Toshiro says Cracklin' Oat Bran. I went through a phase, I think it was in high school, where I was totally into that. And I did like that a lot. Yeah, the rock hard marshmallows. Well, they got to stay fresh in milk. I don't know if fresh is the right word. Crispy in milk. If bran flakes hits the list, it's proof Aaron is getting old. You know, here's something funny. When I was in high school, somebody, my mom or my dad, had like a box of Uncle Sam's flakes. I don't know if you've ever seen these before. Now, Uncle Sam was my favorite superhero in the Golden Age. Not that I was around in the Golden Age, but looking back at the Golden Age books, comics from the 40s, Uncle Sam was like my favorite superhero. This just shows my great conservative patriotism. And so I saw this box of Uncle Sam flakes, and I was like, oh, I'll try that. And they're actually really good. So I started eating Uncle Sam flakes regularly. And then I noticed in small print, like, you know, several boxes later, it was like Uncle Sam's natural laxative cereal. So okay, maybe that's why my dad was eating it. I don't know. So Uncle Sam was I had a short period of time where I was I loved Uncle Sam cereal too. Dan Genovese says, oh no, he says, I grew up with a Quaker Oats man. The Quaker Oats man, isn't that like George Washington or somebody? No, it was somebody famous from the colonial period, the Quaker Oats man. I can't remember who it is now. And he says, I don't know chemically what they are, but they are not marshmallows. Okay. Oh my goodness. I'm telling you though, my brother, I think my older brother's addicted to these. When he came to visit, we were like, make sure you've got Lucky Charms. I'm like, okay. Let's see. Well, I know it's a Quaker, but I thought it was based on somebody, and I can't remember who it was now. William Penn, maybe. Paul Taylor said, no, it's a Quaker. I thought the face was based on somebody, though. I may be mistaken. You know, I often am. Whenever I'm 100% sure of something, that's when I'm 100% wrong. So, yes, it was Art to Bear. That's who it was. Daryl Wayne, everybody's pushing Captain Crunch, but I have a little bit of I wouldn't say a dissertation on it, but number 2. Oh, I forgot to hit the thing. Well, I just gave it away, but you know, what the heck. Let's do it anyway. Number 2 is Cocoa Pebbles. These are the best, without a doubt, chocolatey cereal you can get. I still will buy a box of these now and again. Again, they can't be all that great for me, but they're so good. They are so good. And like Fred and Barney used to smoke cigarettes back in the old days. You know, smoke a cig, have a bowl of Cocoa Pebbles. It's just like the good old days. Now, wait a minute. Jerry Roscoe, prefer Fruity Pebbles to cocoa all day, every day? Are you kidding me? I mean, I don't mind Fruity Pebbles, but cocoa, I'm a chocolate guy through and through. There you go. Pseudoscram, only 120 calories. That's without milk. So they must be good for you. Geek Avengers, they smoked Winston's, didn't they? I think you're right. Now they had TV commercials with Fred and Barney in black and white, animated, where they were smoking Winston's. They would do yeah, I mean, it was amazing. Us poor kids, and all we could get was candy cigarettes to emulate the Flintstones. We used to get Nestle's Quick. You know what we used to do with Nestle's Quick? Now we were poor folk growing up, and we would take, like, my dad would drive me nuts because I'm like a guy that I want robust flavor in no matter what I'm eating. My dad would get like vanilla ice cream, which to me is an anti-flavor. And then he'd get like strawberry ice cream. It's like, oh man, where's the chocolate or even Rocky Road, something with some variety in it, you know? So what we would do was, with all this vanilla ice cream, that was all he would buy when he bought ice cream. We would take the Nestle Quick and we put it in a bowl, several tablespoons or whatever. add a little bit of milk, and then we'd mix it up. So it was like this thick sort of chocolate sauce that we'd then pour over the vanilla ice cream. And it was gritty because, of course, Nestle's Quick is gritty. And so that was our, because we couldn't afford, chocolate syrup or hot fudge or any of that kind of thing. So sad, isn't it? Geek Adventure says, you weren't poor in the 70s or 80s unless you ever had to use powdered milk. That stuff was disgusting. Yeah, I think my mom used it to cook with, but we never had to drink it. So that at least anti-entity with pretzels. It's probably chocolate. Julie Pascal says, we just put the quick powder on ice cream. You just put the powder on there? You wouldn't turn it into like a chocolate sauce first? Do you guys remember, excuse me, they came out with these things. I don't even remember what they were called. And again, this was in the 70s. And I don't know how long they lasted. But we never got soda when we were kids. Not because I think my parents were ever like, oh, it's not healthy for you. We couldn't afford it, right? So we never had soda, canned soda growing up. So we'd go on field trips and all these kids would have, they have their Coke and they have their 7-Up, their Mountain Dew, whatever. We had like a canteen with water in it, right? We would buy these. My parents would buy me these. They were like Tums, but they were like root beer flavored or lemon lime flavored or whatever. These 2 pellets. And you'd throw them in the water and they would fizz in the water and create like this artificial soda that you would then drink. I can't for the life of me remember what these tablets were called, but you could buy them in like soda flavors, but then you put them in the water, because they were super cheap. And so I would sit there and when no one was looking and put, root beer or whatever in my root beer tablets in my water canteen and let it fizz up. And then I would have like this simulated root beer. Yeah, good old days, man. Oh, that's why it always settled my stomach after lunch. Now here's the thing. We would buy the Kool-Aid, but the unsweetened Kool-Aid packs. We used to get those too. And then we would add the sugar. And my mom said she would not get the pre-sugared Kool-Aid because it was too much sugar in it. And I just kept thinking too much sugar as I watched my mom make this gallon of Kool-Aid and then just like start heaping cups of sugar. And I'm like, how can the pre-made stuff have more sugar in it than this does? But anyway, we Sheeple Hunter, too poor for soda. We never had it. Pantheon says, believe it or not, some people put water on their cereal because they didn't have milk or powdered milk or canned milk, just water. I would eat it dry before I put water on it, which we used to do. Because you remember, you used to get, like, there was always some prize in there, right? And so then you'd crack the box open and just start, to get to the prize. You guys remember the Jolt Cola? It was out for like maybe a year and before they went out of business. And they had this advertisement that said, twice the caffeine and all the sugar and twice the caffeine. That's what it was called. So it's supposed to be like this really super bad for you energy drink kind of stuff. It was called Jolt Cola. It had to have been when I was living in LA going to school in the mid 80s, because I remember seeing billboards, and that'd been the only place I would have seen billboards was in LA. So good old Jolt Cola. Dan Genovese remembers it. Yeah, there you go. Julie Pascal, all the sugar and twice the caffeine. That's right. I never had one. I never drank an energy drink because I was afraid to, because I was afraid my head would explode or something. I do have them now occasionally. My daughter drags me into Dutch coffee and we get energy drinks when she's around, but she's thankfully at school. So only during the summers and Christmas break do I get the annoying, can we go to Dutch? Can we go to Dutch? Can we go to Dutch? Let's see. Pop Rocks. Yes. There they are. Pop Rocks. Now, do you remember the story? Some kid allegedly ate like a whole thing of Pop Rocks and drank a Coke and it exploded in his stomach and he died. Probably not true, but that was one of the urban legends about Pop Rocks. Red Cow is a great powdered milk. Says Brian, suddenly old. I don't know that can you say great and powdered milk in the same sentence? All right, here we go. We got to get to the number one. We'll never get we could. This is what we do on this show is we just reminisce about the good old days, about stupid food items or rock and roll, and occasionally comics. So anyway, here we go. So number one. All right. Now you guys are not going to believe this, but I can explain this. It's not Captain Crunch. It's Quisp. Now, why would I pick Quisp? Because Quisp is Captain Crunch, except it doesn't hurt your mouth. And that's the problem with Captain Crunch. I agree. Captain Crunch is the greatest cold cereal ever made, but it literally tears your mouth to pieces. So you have to suffer for your treat. Quisp is like flat and rounded, like little space saucers, and it's got a little bit more air pumped into it. So it's a little softer, but it tastes exactly enough like Captain Crunch, but it's softer on the gums and the roof of your mouth. So that's why I'm going to substitute Captain Crunch, because of the pain and suffering that goes with Captain Crunch, and use Quisp. Yeah, sure, it's an imitation, but it's softer on the mouth, and it has this groovy little alien, which I have a bobblehead of, and I just found out they have an action figure of this guy too, and I'm going to go see if I can find it. So there you go. Well, this does get soggy if you leave it in milk too long, so you got to kind of eat it quick, where Captain Crunch will hold its crunch quite a bit longer. But this was it for me, man. Once I discovered Quisp, and I go, wow, this tastes just like Captain Crunch, but it doesn't hurt. So, I did not get the Quisp watch. The Spaceman, of course, says this is the best cereal box art ever. And well, there you go. He's the Spaceman. He would know. Kevin Thomas says Quisp look like the Great Gazoo's cousins from Uranus. Who voiced Captain Crunch? Well, if it wasn't Captain Kangaroo, it should have been. I don't know. I know that this is like a famous person, but I can't remember who it was. The Great Gazoo, of course, from the Flintstones. I don't know if he ever smoked. Did he smoke? He probably did. Comic Crazy Linguicia says, my mom wouldn't buy the sweet sugary cereals. I had to usually settle for Raisin Bran. At least I was regular. I still like Raisin Bran. It's a decent cereal. You know what else I like is Honey Nut Cheerios. Those are really, and the apple, is it apple cinnamon Cheerios? Those are really good too. Dawes Butler did the voice for Captain Crunch. Really? Wow. I love how it's being marketed as energy cereal. Yeah, sure it is. I'm not questioning the marketing. I'm just don't think that really is an energy cereal. The Great Gazoo is like Q. Well, I'm not a Star Trek Next Generation fan, but I get the reference. Evil One for $5. Thank you, Chris, for joining us. Haven't seen you in a while. I got hooked on Kellogg's Little Debbie's Nutty Buddy and the oatmeal cream pie cereal lately, and they stopped making them both. Don't you just hate that? I hate that, but what I hate worse is getting addicted to a art supply than them discontinuing it, like brushes, or now my blue coal erase pencils are now no longer being made. Very ticks me off. But did they make cream pie cereal? That is like, those cream pie sandwich cookies are awesome. But I didn't know they made them into a cereal. So I find that kind of disgusting, but at the same time, strangely compelling. Evil One also for $2 said, but Fruity Pebbles makes milk taste better. Yeah, but the Cocoa Pebbles makes it taste like chocolate milk. And so that's better than fruity milk, I think. Now you'll notice that neither Count Chocula or Frankenberry, which may be my two, and Boo Berry, maybe my three favorite cartoon box, cereal box art, next to our friend Quispir, of course. But let's face it, the cereal wasn't that great. Now, it was better when I was a kid, and they've reformulated it now, and it is disgustingly bad right now. I buy the boxes once a year because I like the art on there, but which is dumb because I never open up the box to eat the cereal, and the cereal is just going to be bad in like 10 years from now. I'll still have that box sealed. I don't know. There's something seriously wrong with me. But anyway, Honey Smacks. Wasn't it Sugar Smacks? It wasn't Honey Smacks. It was Sugar Smacks, wasn't it? Captain Crunch was created by Alan Burns, who also created the Minsters and the Mary Tyler. You mean the Munsters and the Mary Tyler Moore shows? Wow. You mean the character was created or the cereal? I'm assuming the character. I used to. Here's the thing. I've had this. My daughter, my family actually makes fun of me for this, and among many other things. Like if I go to a restaurant, I hate it when people order the same thing. So I try not to ever do that. And so we would go get, and this started when I was a kid, we'd go get cereal. My brother was bigger than me because he was older. He's 2 years older. He's not anymore, but he used to be. And so he would always go for Count Chocula. So then I was stuck getting Frankenberry. Now I liked Frankenberry because I liked Frankenstein better than Dracula. And I liked the Frankenberry character better than the Count Chocula, but the cereal wasn't as good. I said, why couldn't they put Count Chocula's cereal in the Frankenberry box? That's what I really wanted as a kid. And then I got Boo Berry when it came out because they had the blue ghost. And, you know, I don't know, fruit cereal is okay, but it's everything is second rate to chocolate for me. So I did eat a lot of Frankenberry as a kid, but I secretly wanted Count Chocula, but I did want the Frankenberry box. So there you go. Oh, Suzy Q's. I haven't had a Suzy Q in forever. Those are good. I used to like Twinkies. I don't like them anymore. They're not as spongy. They're a little bit, I don't know. There's something weird about them. They reformulate this stuff. And it's like, is it just because they preservatives and they want a shelf life of like 20 years? Because some of the original recipes on these dessert items were so good when we were kids, and they changed them and they're not as good anymore. You know, I had a Twinkie recently and I was like, oh, never again. Sheeple Hunter says, I used to hide my weed in a Michael Jordan Wheaties box. They'll never look here. Wow. Bob Jester 28 for $10. Thank you, Bob Jester. Appreciate that very much. So I just noticed your jacket and shirt. Are you a Nebraska fan or do you live here too? My dad is from Ravenna, Nebraska, which is a small town outside of Grand Island, Nebraska. And he raised me on Nebraska football and other sports, mainly football. And I have never let go of that, because when I first was a Nebraska fan in 1970, they won the national championship. So it's like, why would I quit being a fan? And they won it in 71. And then we were always thinking next year they're going to win it. Next year they're going to win it. Of course, it took them 25 years, but they finally did it again. And now here we are waiting again. But yes, I am a huge Nebraska fan, but been back many times, but was not born there now. He says, wow, that's about 80 miles from where I live. How about that? Ugh. Okay, first of all, I'm allergic to bananas, but I hate bananas. Hate them. Obama banned trans fat when he was president, changed everything he's made. Yeah, well, he changed a lot of things, unfortunately. You know, I did notice, though, that we are one obese country, don't you think? And it's like, compared to every other country in the world, do we just have too much, or is like too much of our food unhealthy? I think that's might be the answer, and we're eating too much of it. But hey, sometimes you just got to have a box of cold cereal and a Suzy Q. So it's all about moderation, right? Okay. Let's go. Mexico's getting bad too. I believe that. But some guy, and I don't know if any of this is true because I didn't look it up, but on Instagram, he had like the top 10 most dangerous cities in the world. 9 of the 10 were in Mexico, and 1 was in Venezuela. Well, there you go. I don't know if that's true or not, but it seems like it probably could be. Paul Taylor saying, blame the hydrogenated corn syrup. I think you're right. Oh, boy. Seed oils make you fat, says Andy Dalliff. And well, we just eat a lot of unhealthy foods, and we're too used to eating unhealthy foods. And we got to kick the habit. Next time I'll show you, we'll do my top 5 healthy foods. Well, maybe we will. Okay. Well, let's see. What do we got next here? Oh, I know what we've got next here. We won't do Shelley Knows today because, of course, Shelley's not here. She does know stuff, but she's not here to share her knowledge. So we're going to skip over that one, and we'll do this. Let's find out what's in my flat file, shall we? Okay. We've been going through sort of my history of splash pages that I've done personally. And we're going to continue that trend today. We're going to take a look at Justice League International, from the New 52, where I was the artist on that book during the New 52 launch, which was Dan DiDio's baby to sort of relaunch the DCU, to create excitement. And it did pretty well at first, but then like anything else, it sort of, people lost interest and then they went back to the old ways, which always happens, right? So I'd come off Wonder Woman, a successful run on Wonder Woman, about 2 years on Wonder Woman. And I was offered Superman. And I was like, I wanted to do it. And then I found out that it was Superman Walks Across America, or excuse me, Clark Kent Walks Across America. And I said, I'm not doing this. And so then they were scrambling, going, oh my gosh, okay, well, then they found this Justice League Generation Lost, which was this 24-issue maxi series, which I did rotating story arcs on with a couple other guys. And then when they launched, and then it did so well, it shocked them. They didn't think it would do that well. It did really, really well. So they turned it into a New 52 series and gave the writing chores to Dan Jurgens and the art chores to me. It made sense for me to spin off from that from Generation Lost, Justice League Generation Lost, to this new Justice League International. So everything started off great. And here's my first cover. We will be showing splash pages in a second, but I can't talk about this without getting pissed off. And so we're going to do this. There's my first cover. A pretty good first cover, you know. Of course, you have Booster in his New 52 outfit, which I think Jurgens designed. Of course, Batman, they threw Batman in there for sales. Batman never made sense to me being in any team at all. He just would not be a guy who'd hang out. But he wasn't really in Justice League International. He sort of started it and recruited Booster Gold to start it up again. So he was sort of kind of like keeping an eye on him, but he was involved sometimes, but not all the time. And but then they got him more and more involved because sales. So then there's that Russian dude, Rocket Red, right here. So we have Batman, Booster, Batman, Rocket. This is Fire. Remember her? She was really easy to draw. Just drew a naked chick and turn her green. This was General in Irons, I believe his name was, and he was a Chinese character, right? Because it's Justice League International. He wanted, full international representation, so that was fine. Because he was kind of cool looking, although this armor really drove me nuts. Then we've got what's her face? The animal. She turned animal powered chick. What's her name? You guys help me out. And Guy Gardner, Green Lantern, who I always thought was kind of a kick in the pants. Of course, we wouldn't get the regular Green Lantern because he was in the regular Justice League, which was Jim Lee and Jeff. I almost said Jeff Darrow. Jeff, good old Jeff. Vixen, thank you. And we got Ice down there. And then this blonde chick who was basically just Medusa, right? She had the hair. And Jeff Johns, thank you, Paul. God, that was dumb. That was a brain fart. And this girl's name was, who is the chick that rode naked on horseback and covered herself with her hair? Godiva, thank you. So she was Godiva. And originally it was going to be Klepto. And this was a character that Dan Jurgens had introduced in his Booster Gold series. But she kind of looked like Wonder Girl, the dark-haired version, not the blonde. And so people were going, oh, is that Wonder Girl? Is that, what's her face? What is Wonder Girl's name? Diana Prince is Wonder Woman. I should know this stuff, but I don't care enough to remember it. The heck, you guys. Who is the Donna Troy? Thank you. So everybody was speculating, is this Donna Troy? Is this Donna Troy? And it wasn't. And Dan was like, take her off the cover. We got to put somebody else in there. And I'm like, because I think he wasn't releasing information on whether Donna Troy was going to be part of the new 52. And of course, everybody wanted to know. And I'm like, I said to Dan, Dan, just leave it on there and let people speculate. It causes a stir. More people will be interested in picking up the book. And he's like, no, I don't want to mislead people and all this kind of stuff. And so we took it off, and Godiva became, didn't really, whether it was Klepto or Godiva, it wouldn't have made any difference. But I thought just as a marketing ploy, while we were leading up to the first issue, it might be good to let people speculate all they wanted about who it was. But anyway. Well, then I followed that up with now here's the thing. I did the second issue. Here's the cover to the second issue, right? Which I kind of liked. I thought the first two covers were good. I felt like, okay, 2 for 2. Dan DiDio called me up and goes, hey, I saw the cover to number 2. I really like this cover. And I'm like, oh, thanks, Dan. Appreciate that. And then a week later, I get a call from my editor telling me that David Finch has taken over the covers. So I was furious. And now I'm a huge Dave Finch fan. Don't get me wrong. And the covers he did were great. But no one wants to lose the cover gig to their book to anybody. I don't care if it was Frazetta. I was not happy about it. And what the situation was, I was a victim of my own success, I guess, or the success of this book. It wasn't just my success, but Dan Jurgens obviously as well, that we put out a book that people actually liked. And so they had to put Finch, he had to have a cover assignment because it was contract, right? And in his contract, and he was getting paid so much money, they could not justify putting him on a book that didn't sell over a certain amount of copies. And so no one expected Justice League to be that book, but it was. The first issue sold over 60,000 copies. And this is back when 100,000 was, good, really good. So this was selling 60,000 copies. It was in the top 15. It might have been the top 10 when it launched. I can't remember. It probably was in the top 10 when it launched. And then they had to do a second printing. So it sold really, really well and much better than they had anticipated. So now it was making enough money that it could afford David Finch's cover rate. So guess what? Aaron gets the boot. David Finch gets the assignment. So I'm still bitter about this to this day, but there it is. It's a good read. It really is, Cam. I was not a big fan of it either until I started drawing the characters. I used to hate Booster Gold, but now I love Booster Gold. And once I got to draw him and stuff, and I always like Guy Gardner. I always like drawing Guy Gardner because he's such a dick and he's so fun to kind of like mess with. I don't hold on to grudges because I never forget them, but I do forgive people. But it always stays in the back of my mind. It's like, that's how you know if there's people you can trust or people you can't trust. And I'm not saying this at Dan DiDio didn't have anything to do with this, as far as I know. It was called me. It was the group editor. It was the guy that got in trouble for messing with the women and got booted. Yeah. He got the good news of calling me and letting me know that I said, am I supposed to be, you expect me to be happy about this? He's like, no, but I expect you to accept it. I said, well, yeah, I guess I'm accepting it. What else am I going to do? Yeah. Eddie Berganza. I had the conversation with Eddie, and I'd worked with Eddie before, never had any problems with him. I'm just saying in this one moment, he was whether it was his decision or someone else's decision, he was the bearer of bad news. So, but no, I don't hold on to grudges, but I never forget, because if you screw me over, then I have to be smart enough to know that I can't trust you. And so I don't forget what you did, but I will forgive you and have, can have a cordial relationship and all that kind of stuff. And I don't, go to bed gritting my teeth every night thinking about it, but that's how I know who I can trust and who I can't. Paul Taylor for $10 Canadian. Thank you, Paul. I stopped reading mainstream comics before New 52. Best Guy Gardner interaction was Burn Guy versus Jim Shooter character who had the power to create a new universe and blew his own foot off. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, that was pretty funny. I think he left Marvel, and that was like the first thing he did, right, was do that story to kind of take a shot at Jim Shooter. Evil One says, Aaron was robbed like usual. I am. I'm a professional victim, but I don't want to be called that. No, I've had my fair share of successes and things gone right, but I've got screwed over a lot too. Maybe it's just my kind demeanor. Anyway, let's see. Cam says, I don't understand not putting top talent on struggling titles to get their sales up instead of throwing them under another Batman book or whatever. Well, the reason is because a lot of times it doesn't even work. Like they put Andy Kubert and Mark Waid on Kazar, and they both were really excited about it. They did about 12 issues and they both left because sales wouldn't justify it. They couldn't bring the sales up on the book because fans get attached to characters, right? Spider-Man and Batman are always going to be number one. And yes, whoever works in those books is going to be more famous than the person that's working on Kazar, right? And even a great name like Andy Kubert at the time, it spikes it at first, but then people like, I don't care about Kazar, and they quit reading. It's just inevitable. But I used to think the same thing, but so what they do is they take their top talent, put it on their top books, and then, or they take people they want to turn into top talent, put them on their top books. They then just by exposure become top talents. And that sort of keeps their top titles up in sales, and then it carries the rest of these lower end books. But putting top talent on lower end books has never seemed to increase sales. So that's your explanation, although I can't really explain it because you'd think it would help, but it does. It helps a little bit, but not enough to justify it. So that's why. Well, yeah, how many Frank Millers are there really though? A couple. Simonson turned around Thor, made Thor cool. Frank Miller turned around Daredevil, made Daredevil cool. But there's very few guys that are superstar writers and superstar artists that can do that. And those are a couple of examples, but you won't find many. Yeah, there you go. Henry Jeremick says they put Neil Adams on the X-Men, and those were great X-Men issues. Didn't save the book until they created the new X-Men, of course. Okay, so anyway, let's take a look at some of the splash pages I did now that I've cried about my cover situation. I think this is from issue number 2. Was one of maybe my favorite double page spread of all time. But yeah, these were, we were doing villains, and the stuff that came from space was always I wanted it to be feel like Kirby type stuff. They do they're very reminiscent of Sentinels. But I designed these with Kirby sensibilities, but obviously with my drawing style and my Kirby through my lens, I guess maybe would be a way to put it. I hate robots. I hate them, Paul. But I figured if I could do them like Kirby-esque, it might be kind of fun, and it was. So this was kind of a they weren't called Sentinels, but they were sent by were they sent by the alien villain that we saw later? I can't remember, but they were kind of like the black bars from 2001. Signal Men. That's what this was called. This guy, because he was like, I think a couple of them, they were like set down in different spots on the planet Earth, and they were sending out a signal to bring in this mothership, I guess. Spaceman says, Aaron, you draw the most expressive female faces. Just amazing. How do you do that? It's all in the eyes, man. It's all in the eyes. I've told this before, but my mom was just always on my case about drawing females. She grew up in the era where, with the pinup girl was like all the rage. So there was like Petty Girls and Vargas, and in the 30s and early 40s, and she always liked that art. And so most guys, when they start drawing, they draw superheroes. They draw male superheroes. That's all we draw when we're little boys, because we want to be the superhero. And then when you discover girls at age 12, 13, whatever it is, you're like, hey, that girl's got curves that I don't have. What's up with that? And then you start getting interested in girls. So then you start drawing your superhero girls, but they all look like dudes with boobs. And so that's when your mom comes in and goes, the shoulders are too broad. The waist isn't thin enough. The hips aren't round enough. The face looks like a dude. And my mom was, she was on my case constantly. So that is why I draw pretty girls now, is because my mom made me. There's the story. Sequential artist for $5. Remember Judd Winnick writing? I remember Judd Winnick writing some of the. He wrote that. Yeah, he wrote the miniseries, or it was a maxi series. It was 24 issues. Hopefully, it was a good experience working with him with scripts. Judd was fine, man. We got along great, and then he just left comics after this, and I don't know what happened. It wasn't anything to do with me. We got along fine, and he was happy with what I was doing. I thought his scripts were great. I don't know. But here's a nice thing. So this was a double page spread to the second issue. And Dan Jurgens said to me, he goes, you're making me want to try harder as an artist. And I thought that was a great compliment, so I was feeling pretty good about things, despite the fact I just lost the cover gig. This next one I probably should have shown first, because this was the last page to the first issue. Now this is comic book writing 101. Okay. I've always liked Dan Jurgens as a writer, because him being an artist, he understands how to pace a book. He understands how much information to put on a page, and he understands not to bore the audience, right? He's very old school, like I am. This is the end of the first issue, right? Now, don't tell me you're not going to buy the second issue when this first one ends like this. And of course, then we went to the second issue, which was the double page spread that I just showed you. Henry Jeremick says, my mom doesn't like butch babes. That is so true. Yeah, Kirby dynamics. Exactly. Paul Taylor says, nice dynamic Kirby-like action. Exactly. But it was absolutely a blast working on this book, because there was always something going on. There was always superheroes involved. There was always action. The quiet moments were interesting, and they didn't last forever. There were a few pages, and then boom, we're right back at it again. But anyway, so that was one there. This is later in the run, almost the last couple issues. And they canceled this book. Here's the other thing. They canceled this book not because of sales, okay? Because they had too many Justice League books, and somebody, I believe it was Jeff Johns, although I'm not certain, but I'm pretty certain, didn't like this book. And so he pushed for its cancellation. They felt it was kind of like the redheaded stepchild of the Justice League books, because they had the Jeff Johns, Jim Lee book going. David Finch was supposed to launch his own Justice League. I don't even know if that ever happened. That was that second Justice League book coming out, and they didn't want this, cluttering things up, which made no sense to me at all. Because they don't have any problem publishing 100 Bat books, so why not have more Justice League books? But so Dan Jurgens and I both went to Dan DiDio and begged him. We said, don't cancel the book. Just drop the Justice League name. Have them go Renegade or Rogue, or have the Justice League disavow them because something happens, right? And they disavow them, but they keep working as an independent super team, because they're a bunch of misfits anyway. They're not in the regular Justice, other than Batman, right? You get a Batman turn on him and get rid of him. And we were trying to petition to have him bring Supergirl in, because that'll, bring in a couple eyeballs, bring Supergirl in. And she's an alien, so it goes perfect with this, Justice League International thing. And we couldn't get that across, and they ended up canceling the book anyway. And I remember Dan DiDio told me later, he was like, we shouldn't have canceled that. And I'm like, yeah, duh. But anyway, those guys in the upper echelon dealing with the money people and everything had a lot of, I can't imagine the kind of pressure they were under all the time. So yeah, this was fun. This is like, I got to draw Batman fighting this dude in a graveyard for a couple of pages, and it was a lot of fun. As you can see in the background here, the Justice League, there's Booster Gold and there's Guy Gardner. That's the OMAC dude back there. So yeah, this is the first time in my life that I figured out sort of how to draw Batman. I really struggled with him because for a guy who's a Wrightson fan, I don't like putting in real heavy blacks, or I never used to do it, because I was like, I'd draw the anatomy and everything, and then I'd be like, I don't want to cover it up with shadows, which is the stupidest thing in the world, because those shadows give your two-dimensional drawing a three-dimensional quality. And that's what we're all striving for, is to take a flat two-dimensional surface and give it some depth. And that's what those shadows does. That's what someone like the aforementioned Dave Finch does really, really well, is spotting blacks and putting blacks in there to create volume in his work. And I could never do that when I was drawing Batman. That's why I ended up being a better Superman artist, I think, than a Batman artist, because Superman you always kept him open unless you were doing a real dark storyline, which generally didn't happen with Superman. He was much more open. And when I drew him in Justice League later, not this Justice League Europe, but Justice League, one of the last jobs I did for DC was regular Justice League, I had a blast drawing Superman because I finally understood him. Oh, believe me, I learned most of what I knew about inking from Gary. Matt Ryan inked this, by the way, not me. Yeah. If you want to learn, look at Finch, look at Wrightson, look at Kevin Nolan. Kevin Nolan is really interesting because a lot of times he uses black as a design element. It's not necessarily flowing with the figure like you might think it would be, but he creates it and uses it as a design element, which he may not agree with that assessment, but that's my assessment putting on his work. Excuse me. Those are guys to look at. You got to be bold when you do it. Mignola is another guy, but he uses so much black. I don't know if he's really a good balance for that, but Frazetta is another guy who uses spots blacks really well to create volume. And you got to have the courage to do it. You got to have the courage to cover up part of your drawing. And that was the thing. It was like, I was just still in that stage where I wanted to noodle everything, right? And so it was hard for me to cover it up, but it really does work well and is very effective and makes your drawing better. So don't be afraid to put some heavy blacks in there. No, I don't go as far as Finch does because Finch puts heavy blacks on everything. And I always kind of look at it, well, for in the daylight, in the middle of the day, you're not going to have necessarily, with all the reflective light, you're not going to have heavy black shadows. You can get that, in stark sunlight, but it has to be in a situation where you're not having a lot of bounce light coming in and fill those shadows. Or if I'm in an office building with, fluorescent lights overhead, it seems, why would there be heavy shadows in there? I can't let people that are successful or people that work outside the box. I've never been able to work outside the box. I'm always in the box. I can't think of how to get out of the box sometimes, but practicality is my downfall sometimes. Here's another one. Now, Dan DiDio wanted us to use OMAC. He was in love with OMAC for some reason. I know he's a big Kirby fan, and this was this new OMAC with that super head fin. So OMAC ended up becoming a member of Justice League International, which was totally fine. I mean, he was kind of like the Hulk character. I guess they needed one. And so this is kind of where they first fight him, and then he sort of makes his way into becoming a team member. I'm sorry, I took a minute there to read some of the... who's doing the colors on this? Hi-Fi. Oh, okay, Brian Miller was. Mike Martz was mad at her on this? Oh. Mike was mad at all my X-Men stuff at Marvel. I like Mike. We got along really well. All right, I'm going to show you my worst double page spread. I show you my best. This is probably my worst. I'll tell you why. What really annoyed me about this was it's very presentational. I mean, you see everything, but it's like I should have done a low angle or something to give this thing more dynamics than it actually has. But I got so caught up with fitting everybody into it that I didn't really think in terms of powerful dynamics. And I mean, there's depth in it, obviously, because you've got ice down here in the foreground, Wonder Woman and OMAC robot, whatever it was, in the midground. This is from Gen Lost, by the way. This is just prior to the New 52 series. You got fire back here, and then the groovy Blue Beetle, Rocket Red down there. So I remember being really disappointed with myself with this because I didn't push the angle hard enough. But as far as the drawing, it's fine, and I don't think it's a bad drawing. I just think it could have been way more dynamic. Honestly, you guys, I don't know. I'm reading the chat. I don't know who did the OMAC stuff. I wasn't reading it. I didn't do a lot of, I just worked. Kind of like me now. It's kind of like, even when I was right in the middle of the mainstream, I didn't really know who was doing what, unless it was pertinent to the job I was doing. I just felt like I was working all the time. And occasionally when DC would send us their books for free, we'd get them every month or every week. I'd thumb through some of the books and see who was doing what, but I didn't really do a great job of keeping up with that stuff. GJ Martinez says, what are you talking about, Aaron? This was great. Look at the poses. Wonder Woman's facial expression tells what's happening. Yeah, I don't have a problem with anything except that it's just a straight on angle. Cam says lower angle would have been really interesting. I agree. As it is, it's still really good. Well, thank you for that. But yeah, it would have been a lower angle shot, would have been more dynamic. Maybe Wonder Woman more. Well, I mean, she's practically full page as it is, but yeah, I just felt like it just lacked the that dynamic comic book angle that could have made it better. But anyway, so there you go. There's some of my splash pages. I do have a couple that I kept, and Sometimes you keep pages for the just silliest reasons, but this Guy Gardner splash page, it opens up to a double page spread where all of the Justice League is like tied up with this metal coil thing. And I just like that sort of half asleep, dopey expression on Guy Gardner's face. He became one of my favorite characters to draw in this series, him and Booster, because their faces really weren't covered, and you could really do a lot of stuff with expressions and stuff with them. Yeah, it does look like Doc Ock has him, but it isn't. It's just some like metal cable thing that they wrapped them all up with. But anyway, so I kept this just because I like the expression. Hey, speaking of which, we got 411 people watching right now. If you guys hit the like and subscribe button, if you have not already, I'd really appreciate that. Helps the channel grow. Thank you very much. Appreciate you, everybody here watching. And then here's another Guy Gardner. Look at his face. This is the villain Paraxis. And again, look at the Kirby influence on this guy. He's kind of like a cross between Galactus, Ronan the Accuser. Pretty intricate. I actually, sometimes you design stuff and you go, man, this is stupid. I don't consider myself a good designer, but I think I really like this. And I just really like this page, so I kept it. It's not the first appearance of Paraxis. The first appearance is on the page right before this, which is the last page of the last issue. But then it opens with this of Guy Gardner having got the crap beat out of him. I just like the figure work. I just like everything about it. And plus it's a splash page of this character that Dan Jurgens and I created. And just to show you how cool this character is, here's a Finch cover from the run. Maybe his best cover. But it's kind of cool when you get the cover art that someone else did, in this case Finch, and you go, oh my gosh, he drew my character. And he did the armor perfect. It wasn't like he went in and just kind of did whatever he wanted. He like actually looked at what I'd drawn and did it. And I thought that was cool. Evil One says it's a really busy costume, Aaron. It sure is. And I can tell you, I hated myself for doing it every time I had to draw it because he was in the series a lot. Finch probably wasn't too happy with me either when he had to draw this cover, but I thought this was a great cover. If he still had this cover, which I'm sure he doesn't, I'd buy it from him. Yeah. So again, I'm not, I was never mad at Dave for doing the covers. I mean, he got the cover gig. Why wouldn't he do it? I'm just upset that I didn't get to do my own covers, but he certainly, he couldn't. That's the troubling thing about it. When you get somebody that, you want to be mad because they bring in someone that maybe isn't as good as you are. And you're like, how in the world, but he's more popular. And you're like, I can't believe this guy's doing my covers. And I've had that before, but this was like, okay, this guy's better than me. And I love his stuff, but I'm still mad. But yeah, you can tell the Kirby influence here. And that was, again, intentional. I was trying to capture that spirit. Yeah, well, it's funny. I was talking to Mark Schultz, and Schultz did some illustrated books for a small publisher, but they were doing like Gary Gianni did a series of like they were doing Robert E. Howard stuff, and he did the Solomon Kane book, and they were like these really low print run hardcover, super expensive. They're really expensive now, but when they came out, they were too expensive for me. But they had spot illustrations by these guys. And Schultz did a Conan book or two for them. And after he did the book and everything, they informed him that they were going to use Frazetta's artwork on the cover. And Mark, of course, was not happy because he did the book. He wanted to do the cover. He should do the cover. But then he's like, but then he got Frazetta on the cover. You know what I mean? So you're still, the cover looks great, but you're still upset that, you know, you didn't get to do the cover gig like I should have been doing, and Mark should have as well. But it's kind of an interesting dynamic when they put someone on there that's like really great, and you're kind of like, you want to be mad, but you at the same time you're like, God, these covers are really cool. Yeah, he does have great character. I don't know him very well at all, but I did a sketch for him. We were going to trade sketches like 10 years ago, and when I was doing Amethyst, and I did a sketch for him. And in San Diego, we finally, you know, I ran into him, and we hadn't talked, you know, since that time, because he was going to do the sketch for me, and he just didn't have time during the show, which I figured he wouldn't. And so I sent him my book with him, and he wasn't able to get it done, and they ended up sending the book back, not doing anything. And so I just kind of went, oh, that's the way it goes. And but then this year in San Diego, he gave me, to make up for it, he gave me this painting of Clayface that I've shown, and I did an opening on videos. So if you haven't seen it, check out my other videos, because there's a opening video. I have a little show called Talking Comics and Art with Aaron Lopresti, and I hope, you know, unveil artwork that I get, or comics, or whatever. And so that I was like blown away. It's like, dude, you don't owe me this. And he's like, yes, I do. And, you know, yes. And so I took it. So it's hanging up right over there. Anyway, let me do this real quick. I'm terrible at promoting my own stuff, and I don't like to do it. I don't like to be an infomercial. We're here for, you know, just good times and entertainment value. But let me take 1 minute, if I may, to show you, since we have 420 people watching right now, Kit Carter, Planet Doom graphic novels, what I'm working on right now. I'm over halfway done with it. In fact, I've got page 42 on the board right now. And it's a 64-page graphic novel. So we can see the light at the end of the tunnel. See the light at the end of the tunnel. This is oversized. It's 8.5 by 11. 64 pages, as I said. It's the same format, basically, as the Marvel graphic novels of the 80s that probably many of you remember. God Loves, Man Kills, the X-Men thing by Chris Claremont, or there was a She-Hulk graphic novel by Byrne. There was a ton of graphic novels. Death of Captain Marvel, those type of things. So it's that same format. This is the hardcover right here. And that's by me. And Kelsey Shannon did the colors. This is by Chris Stevens, tremendous painter, illustrator, does tons of cover work. And so this is kind of a pulpy version. This is on the soft cover. The hardcover will have a gallery of art in it that the soft cover won't have. And the hardcover comes signed and numbered, and it's limited edition, where the soft cover is going to be an open edition. Here's a couple pages from the interior where Kit Carter faces off with Schmagma, like magma, get it? And the Lava Man, which is kind of wraps up from the previous Kit Carter story that was in backup story in Wraith of God 2, Blood Hunters. That was a backup story in there. And then we kind of springboard into that. And then it goes kind of like an Indiana Jones movie. We start at the end of one adventure and it dovetails into the next one. This is the back cover by Dan Lawless. This is a pinup by Gary Martin and Kelsey Shannon that will be in the gallery in the hardcover, but not in the soft cover. Sorry, that'll be in the gallery there. You can get T-shirts. There's a sketchbook that's also 8.5 by 11, so it's a large format Kit Carter sketchbook. I've got over a decade worth of material, so and I'll probably put in. Some people have requested that I put in some of the pencil pages from the book because I posted some of that stuff, and people are interested in seeing more of that. So I'll put a few pages from the book in this as well. We've got the movie poster, the 14 by 36 insert movie poster size. This will come rolled. It will not come folded. The Kit Carter Planet Doom movie poster, rated PG. So most of you will be old enough to get in to see it. Kit Carter laser etched shot glasses. Oh, this, of course, is the color sketch. This is not the finished painting. All sorts of stretch goals are coming true. They're mostly trading from my larger Empire Comics trading card set. But most of the pieces in this that you get for free with this in the stretch goals are by David Williams and me. So there's a lot of good art in there. You can get a Garbage Man trade paperback, which is my creator-owned monster book. Power Cubed trade paperback, which is my sci-fi comedy adventure book. Very much in the same vein as Kit Carter. I did both of these through Dark Horse originally. Well, actually, I did Garbage Man through DC, but the collection is from Dark Horse, and this Power Cube trade paperback also from Dark Horse. Or if you missed out on Wraith of God, you can get Wraith of God #1, second printing with a new cover, or you can get Wraith of God Blood Hunters, which is Wraith of God 2 with all the original. This is the first printing on all these, and all the covers are still available. So that's all the good stuff. And I guess I didn't do a very good job of telling you what this story is about. So real quickly, Kit Carter is an elite ranger in the Galactic Alliance Freedom Force, also known as GAF. And along with her partner, Merv, the Astro Chimp, she polices the galaxy, bringing the most dangerous villains and tyrants to justice. Lord Menace is the tyrant king of a dying monster-infested planet codenamed Planet Doom. In a dangerous and desperate move, he acquires the Eye of Omniman and employs its unmatched power to rejuvenate his planet and create forces to conquer the galaxy. Kit and Merv are dispatched to stop him, but is this the one adversary that even they can't handle? Find out in this irreverent space adventure inspired by 1950s sci-fi movies and comics. I should have put in there as well. But ladies and gentlemen, that is how to pitch a story. Give all the elements without giving anything away in one paragraph. Dun, dun, dun. Anyway, you'll find the link in the description of this video. It'll take you right there. If you have not backed already, please consider doing so. I don't think you'll be sorry. I think this is this might be the best artwork I've put into a comic book in my career. It's hard to say, but Garbage Man trade paperback is pretty special to me as well. But this, I'm really loving how the artwork's turning out in this. So please check it out if you haven't already. If you have supported it, thank you so much. I greatly appreciate it. Because it's you guys that go in there and have the faith in us and back us early that gives us the money ahead to actually do the projects. So we appreciate it very much. But now, ladies and gentlemen, you've been waiting for it. It's that time. One thing I can always promise you about this show every week, we will not find Bigfoot. But we're going to keep trying until we do. First of all, let me, when I'm wrong, I'm wrong. Let me issue a public apology. Now, last week, if you remember, we saw this weird black vampire fish thing, and I thought it was fake. It is not fake. They are actually a real thing. And as you can see, if you remember, it wasn't last week's show, it was 2 weeks ago. We didn't have a show last week. It was Easter. But remember I was complaining about the smoothness and lack of scales on it because I said, well, that looks like it's, like a bad rubber fish. This is what they look like. This is an actual photograph. And someone in the chat called me out on it and said, no, these are real. And I went, no, they're not. And they are. Now I can't remember what they're called. I remembered last week, but actually to help me to expect me to remember something 2 weeks, that ain't gonna happen. So anyway, that fish is actually a real thing. And there's versions of these with these big vampire red fangs and ones that don't have the fangs. So very, very weird, but no, I'm serious. This is real. These things are real. I see people going, they're not believing me, but it's true. These are actually real fish. Anyway, now let's get into some stuff that may or may not be real. Paul Taylor sent me this picture, which I thought was pretty funny, and so I'm going to share it with you now as a lead into this. Make of it what you will. Now it's a little small, so you know what? Let's make it bigger so you guys can see it better. And look, when we make it bigger, it gets blurry, which is perfect. It's just like every other shot of Bigfoot, Loch Ness Monster, and UFOs. They're always blurry. I remember Paul sent me the thing, and he goes, it might be small. It might be too small. It may be blurry when you blow it up. And I'm like, of course it'll be blurry when I blow it up. What else should it be? But there you go. That is that's Bigfoot. Is Bigfoot flipping us the bird? I think he might be. Riding the back of Nessie with a strange flying saucer in the foreground. So the three most unreal things that we keep seeing right there in one photograph. There you go. Anti-entity coming through. It is they're not a they're triggerfish. If you don't believe it, look up the triggerfish and then look up triggerfish with fangs, and you will find out that it is a real thing. Cicerone says those trees are clearly fake in the background, of course. Let's get to some weird stuff, shall we? This is real, but I don't know what we're looking at. You guys tell me. I wouldn't go swimming in this lake, I can tell you that. Here we go. I don't know. I assume there's some sort of either snake or eel. It looks like it's got a fish riding on its nose, doesn't it? The second one? Look, right there. Doesn't that look like that's a fish right there? Maybe it's not. It's just like something on the top of its head. Yeah, I don't know where that's at or what that is. Pastmaster Dan says lamprey. Eric Hutfeld's Man of War. Brian suddenly holds giant worms. Looks like an eel. Jelly eel says Yaya Terra. Citizen Ronan oarfish. 40% Zed. It's only 2 feet long. He's not impressed. Kevin Thomas wants to know if I've ever encountered the elusive Bill Murray. I have not. I've seen pictures and ones that are in focus too. My grandfather cut his, Harold Ramis, and John Candy's hair for a movie. How about that? I love the stories you guys have. You know, these weird connections. Anti-entity saying oarfish too. Okay, that's 2 oarfishes. Might be onto something there. Some closer examination of that, perhaps. All right, well, this, I don't even know why I'm showing you this, but I'm going to show it to you anyway. Now, this I would love for this to be real. Hang on, I got started a little early here. Not even know why I'm looking at this. Here we go. A dragon, or is it? It's nice and blurry so that we know it's authentic if it's blurry. And it says here on the screen, people are talking about whether it could be really proof that these make-believe, keyword there, I like the wing action. I don't like the body action too much. Why would the wings be attached to this thing's neck? Look at that. Well, now it looks like it's more to his shoulders, but yeah, let's zoom in on a blurry photo. That'll really help us. Okay, now check this out right there. Sure looks like that's attached to his neck, doesn't it? Maybe it's the upper back. It is so blurry, it's hard to tell. Henry Jeremick thinks that's a flying kangaroo. Evil One says, I won't believe that's a dragon unless it's breathing fire. GJ says, laughs out loud. He said, that is so fake. Eric Hutfels says it's real. Dale A believes it. Evil One getting hungry for fish tonight. Yeah, this is clearly not real. And I'm not even going to give them an A for effort. I'm going to give an A for annoyance. All right, this I called this the roller skating squirrel. I'm not sure what I'm seeing here, but perhaps you guys can help me out. Something strange crosses the street here. Now they'll circle it in red so you can't miss it. Here it comes. There it is. Is that not a roller skating squirrel? Let's watch again here. That looks like a roller skating squirrel to me. Now it could be something else. what it is probably completely 100% faked. I see. I'm wondering, does he? Maybe that's just the shadow that makes him look like he has a tail right there. I guess that's a shadow, isn't it? Right there. Yeah, I guess that's the shadow. I thought he had like a squirrel tail. I thought that's a squirrel. See that? But that's a shadow. So now they're saying it's like a little gremlin or a little goblin or something. I'm saying it may be a little goblin, but I know one thing for sure: it's a lot fake. Henry Jeremick says chicken crossing the road, monkey moonwalking, says Daryl Wayne. It's just a squirrel running up right. It's a monkey on a skate. See, again, why so blurry? Yeah, if you're, who has phone cameras that are this bad? No one. No one has phone cameras that are this bad. Even at night, they're not this bad. Eric Hutfuls, could be a monkey. Yeah, I have no idea what country it is. If it is real, it's probably a monkey or a bat squirrel. And this dude, you ever watch his channel? Jaywalking monkey, defender of all Gotham trees and bushes. There you go. All right, now what do you guys think of this? Now it's on TikTok. It was posted on TikTok. So, take it with a grain of salt. But this is the Black Sea plesiosaur. Where's the Black Sea? I don't even remember. But it doesn't really matter because it's all make-believe. Oh, look at that. You're asking yourself, is it real or was it added CG later? I mean, the water looks pretty good. Like if this was a CGI creation, I mean, the face of the thing looks fake to me, but the water looks pretty good, don't you think? Where it splashes up and then down and up and down. It's pretty good. Makes me wonder if maybe it was something else and they just kind of doctored it to look like if it was a couple of seals and they made it look like some sort of weird. That's what I was going to say. That's what I'm trying to say. Pilot whales and then faked. So you take the actual footage of something and then you change the face over the top of it. Victor's thinking huge seals. They look like CGI effects in a poorly done movie, though. Right. The faces are clearly not seals. But methinks that someone has been messing around. Creative faces, it's fake all the way. The water large scale looks off. Okay. The faces look fake. Paul Taylor's a biologist. He would know. Dolphins, maybe. I don't know. Where's the Black Sea at? Does anybody remember where the Black Sea's at? I don't know if there's dolphins in the Black Sea. They would have to be. And I don't know if the Black Sea, does that open into the ocean or is that like a contained body of water? I don't know. Can't remember. Killraiser says Joker fish. No air bubbles in the water. Those are seals, says Gray Wolf. Joker fish. I'm going to look that up right now because I don't know what that is. And I'm not going to be made a fool of again. Oh, are you talking about? You talking about the fish from the Joker? Okay. He means the Batman and the Joker. That Joker. That's pretty funny. I thought maybe it was a real thing there. The laughing fish from the Joker. Killraiser, that's from a Batman comic. Yeah, I just found that out. Dolphins have a fin and a bull nose. Yeah, I mean, look at that's like two dot eyes and some sort of weird. I just think someone's been messing. That probably is a real movie taken of or a video taken of seals or some fish, and then they went in and doctored it with a he took a blur tool and just kind of blurred the face in a few spots, and you basically have that effect. So we're saying no, we don't believe it. Now, how about this? You guys want more aliens? I got more aliens for you. We have a captured gray alien here that strangely has human anatomy except for its head, but you tell me. Its nipples are off, but what can you do about that? The mask, I'm not buying the mask. That's the problem. It's a little junky to me. And why would you have someone's head evolve like that, but the rest of their body just be like a regular human? I'm not buying it. Forsaken Sandwich says, I watched this porno. Oh, my goodness. See, I this whole texture and stuff on its face. And you notice, okay, the thing is, there's that dude again. I really mined some gold from him this week. It's like Dread Captures or, God, what's it called? I can't remember. I can't even plug his channel because I can't remember what it's called. But he just lifts the videos from other people too. So I guess it's... Okay, so this thing is alive and struggling and stuff. There's no movement around the nostrils or the eyes like, person with muscles and in their face, like, I don't know, humans. We make squinting, we're uncomfortable. Our nostrils flare when we're breathing heavy. The mouth isn't really opening and closing. I'm calling this dude in a rubber mask. That's what I'm calling this. See, look at the mouth. The mouth is not expressive at all. It just opens and closes like a rubber mask would. And why is it laying there letting that guy pinch his lip with a pair of pliers or something? I don't know. Daryl Wayne, it's got moobs. It does. He clearly skipped chest day, according to Citizen Ronan. That's from Del Toro's new movie. Are you joking, or is it really? I got to believe if that was in Del Toro's movie, it'd look better than that. Yeah, Jerry Roscoe says, my dog's face is more expressive than that. Why didn't he check its privates and its buttocks? Victor wants to know. Maybe he did, but that's like in the second half of the video. Oh, did you see the neck? You see a neck seam in there? There you go. All right, we end the show with this final picture because someone, I can't remember who it was, take credit all you want in the chat for telling me this because I can't remember. But they said, check out the alligator caught in New Orleans during Katrina. Well, here's the thing. This and several other photos were put out saying that they caught this giant alligator during Katrina in New Orleans. The problem is that is not an alligator, that's a crocodile, and this is not New Orleans. It's someplace in Africa. I can't remember where now, but so they basically debunked this whole thing, and but that's a real crocodile. As Hooper and Quint would say, that's a 20-footer, 25, 3 tons of him. I don't know if that's a 25-foot croc, but it's probably a good 18 feet, 16 to 18 footer. There's other shots of this thing. That was the best shot of its head. That's why I used it, but it is not in New Orleans and it is not an alligator. So it is indeed a saltwater crocodile. Oh, salties are only in Australia? Are you sure about that, Paul? Because the Nile River must feed into the ocean, doesn't it? But that doesn't mean the water is salt. You might be onto something there. I may have spoke too soon. Because the Nile crocodiles are Nile crocodiles, but they're not necessarily saltwater crocodiles. And I know they got huge crocs in India as well. In fact, they think they got a 30-footer in India, which we've shown in this show before, but I need to revisit that a little bit. See if there's any new information on that. Prehistoric booger, says Henry Jeremack. Can you imagine that thing dragging you under? That'd be pretty horrifying. It's like great white or a 20-foot great white or 20-foot crocodile. I prefer neither. Given my druthers, but crocodiles they're like, seriously, man, they are like living dinosaurs. Evil One for $5 says, what's the deal with the big eclipse tomorrow? What's the deal with the big eclipse tomorrow? I guess I'll watch it. Hopefully I won't go blind using my cheap eclipse glasses. I've seen them 100 times and I've always been scared since I was a kid not to watch it because, you'll go blind. So I have watched them with like special UV glasses, but it'll be cloudy here probably. So it'll just get dark for a second, then it'll get light again. Dale A says, great white may let you go, but you'll bleed to death. I think I'd rather bleed to death after getting bit than just getting rolled to death and chomped on and consumed. Jerry's got some information. He says, well, saltwater crocs live from India to Australia and all the areas between the two. Okay, there you go. Andy Dolph says, thanks. I'm just getting over the shallow water gator. Ooh. Are you a Florida dude, Andy? Or a southerner someplace? And Paul Taylor expanding on the saltwater croc info. Says saltwater crocs are native to saltwater habitats, brackish wetlands, and freshwater rivers from India's east coast across Southeast Asia and the Sundiatic region to North Australia and Micronesia. I went to Australia, spent 2 weeks there, and did not see a crocodile except in a zoo. I should probably be thankful. We were up in the rainforest up by the Great Barrier Reef, and there was a lot of like swamp areas and stuff, and we had like boardwalks that they built to walk out on there, and I was looking for crocs. I never saw any. I'm probably glad I didn't. They probably would have attacked me and drug me under. There you go. If you happen to be at Niagara Falls, that's the best place to watch the eclipse tomorrow. And don't watch it with 3D glasses. Speaking of, where is that at? Speaking of crocs, I can't leave without taking a look at this once again. Perhaps the most horrifying video I've ever seen in my life. It didn't involve someone actually getting eaten. There's an alligator down there waiting for you. Just waiting for you. Oh, look, I'll get a better picture. And then I tripped and fell in and now I'm dead. Oh my gosh, that just freaks me out every time I see this. Whew. And that's down south, folks, but that is one big alligator. All right. Well, everybody, I want to thank, wait a minute. Bob Jester 28 for $10 says, I just noticed your jacket and your shirt. Are you? Oh, we already did that. Sorry. What's the deal with the big clips? Judd Winnick, we got that one. Stop reading mainstream comics. John Byrne and Jim Shooter got that. All right. I'm not like Ethan where I've got like 100 that I have to get. So it's pretty easy to tell what I got and what I didn't. Eric Boyd, thank you for that. Went to Micronesia and all I got was some Indonesian junk that was going around. Cheap trick, of course. Can't slide that by me. Anyway, thank you guys so much for joining me. We had a really strong audience again tonight. I'm very grateful for you guys joining me. Hopefully Shelley will be able to join us next week where we can do Shelley Knows, among other things. Please remember, if you haven't already, to to go check out the Kit Carter campaign. You'll find the link in the description of this video. Thank you so much, you guys, for the super chats. Thank you for your participation in the show. It makes it great, and that's why I love doing it. And I will see you guys tomorrow night on Comicsgate Kings, Tuesday night on The Professionals, and then Wednesday right back here at 2 o'clock for Graybeard's Studio. Thank you all. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and we will see you soon. Peace out, my friends.